It's so funny that even as a lot of people are planning to move to the UK, there are so many people who are already in the UK that are leaving the UK and going to Canada. And we are here to discuss some of the reasons why people are leaving the UK and moving to other countries like Canada. I know that some of you will be wondering why. Be like, oh, you're already in the UK, so why do you have to move to another country? But yeah, people have their choices, people have their reasons. I have a guest here who has been in Canada for a while now, and together we're going to be sharing with you guys why people are actually relocating to Canada from the UK. So I'll bring her in right now. She will introduce herself and then we'll dive right into the video.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Chichi from the Chichi Show. I am based in Canada, and I've been in Canada for close to I think this year is 2023. I'm going to be 10 years in Canada. So I've been here for a while, but not too long, but at least to an extent that I can really tell you about Canada. So in today's video, we are just going to be talking about why people are leaving the UK to Canada. Okay, so we'll please want you to watch this video to the end and see it for yourself, so that before you make your decision, you should kind of compare it to see the country that will be best for you.
Thank you so much, Chichi, for coming today. We're glad to have you here. And yeah, we're going to be discussing everything in detail so that I will know if me too, I'm going to consider leaving to Canada, because the truth is a lot of people. There's some people who you hear today that they're in the UK and the next minute they are no longer in the UK, they've moved to some other country. And Canada is one country that so many people are moving to, and you'll be like, is it that bad? Like, is Canada that awesome that everybody wants to live in Canada? Well, I would want to visit Canada anyway, but I don't know if I want to move. But let's see how far Chichi would convince us. Okay, so number one reason why I actually know, because I have friends, I have people who have lived here for a while, and some of them have moved to Canada. Yes, I'm going to be sharing some reasons I know personally from people I've interacted with, and also from research. And number one on our list is the fact that it takes a longer time to get permanent residency or citizenship in the UK than in Canada. For the UK, if you're on a work visa, you have to stay for 5 years. And then if you're on a study visa, it has to be for 10 years. So you have to consistently pay school fees for 10 years in the UK on a study visa for you to get your indefinite leave to remain before. And if you're on a work visa, it's for 5 years. So yeah, I think this is one of the reasons why people who just want to relocate and get permanent residency, I think this is like a turn off for them. So when they move to the UK and it's just not working, they just, start working towards moving to another country that they will get their permanent residency faster.
Yes, in Canada, first of all, Tochi, I will first of all point on giving birth. People, once you give birth in Canada, automatically your child is a citizen. But that doesn't happen in the UK.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, as a student, you talked about the student that you're going to study, like maintain your study permit for like 10 years. But in Canada, once as a student, no matter, let's say you come here as a student to come study for just 2 years. After that 2 years, you can actually, depending on the province that you are, if you're in the Atlantic region of Canada, you will just apply directly for your permanent residence. Let's say you are in the province where I am now in Manitoba. After you finish your 2 years course, then you apply for an open work permit. So once you get that open work permit and you work for 1 full year as a student, as a work permit holder, then you apply for your PRO. So you're going to apply, because every province in Canada has their own provincial nominee program. So you just apply for the provincial nominee program with a job offer inside Canada. That one, the processing time, because you're in Canada already, is like 6 months.
For express entry as well, you can actually get your PR or something before even moving to Canada, right?
Yes, if you are coming, I was in Canada, I was in Nigeria, I already have my PR already in hand, like it was with me. So because I came as a permanent resident with status. So it was when I now land, when you're in the airport, they now stamp you, then you become a landed immigrant. right? But from Nigeria, I had my PRO paper.
It's not like that for the UK. It's so far.
So
Even on a study visa, right?
Yes.
If you switch to a work visa, like if you've spent 2 years or 1 year studying and you switch to a work visa, all those 2 years that you spent in the UK, it's not counted towards a permanent residency. It's to start counting from the time you get your work visa.
Oh my God.
So all those times you stayed, you lived, paid school fees, it doesn't even count. Anytime you get a job, that's when your 5 years to start counting. That's if you want to switch to a work visa. But if you're going to maintain your student visa status, then it has to be for 10 whole years.
In Canada, once you graduate, the next minute you are applying for a work visa, work permit holder as a worker. Because as a student, you're already working, you already have that Canadian experience. So once you just put in your resume, they are going to. So student, I think Canada is the best place for you to come study if you want to come as a student. Okay, so that's the PRO. Then there's citizenship. So after you've gotten that PR, permanent resident, 3 years, let's say you stay in Canada, you didn't live outside Canada, in 3 years, you will just be qualified for their citizenship. So you take your exam, then do the oath within 4 years, that means 3 years and 1 year processing and all that, you become a citizen of Canada and you have that blue passport.
Like you said, I think that's why people also travel to give birth in Canada and the US, because for UK, you're just coming to spend money. There's no citizenship by birth for you. Yeah, that's if you're just going to come to have your child. There's no citizenship by birth. Well, I think this is another reason why people are just living, people who can't deal with what is attainable in the UK, they are living for countries like Canada. So So having touched on that, I think the next one is the fact that it's becoming really expensive living in the UK. I remember when I first came, things were not like this. It was a bit easier, you know. But now, when you go to stores, Chichi, when you go to shop, sometimes by the time you're done and they give you the price of the things you bought, you'll now be wondering, what did I buy actually? Like, you're buying this today, for instance, you're buying apple for £1 today. If you go back there tomorrow, it's no longer £1. It's now £2. It's now $1.99. And you'll be wondering, like, what's happening? And the bills are just increasing every day. You know how cold it is in the UK, and you know, during the winter, you have to like, keep warm.
UK is cold.
I'm just trying to say, like, because of the weather during the winter, you have to keep warm and all that. But if you try that, the energy bill that you will get, electricity bill you will get by the end of the month, it's becoming really, really expensive living in the UK. And I think this is one reason why people are really struggling right now, and a lot of people are leaving and moving to, you know, looking for other options and leaving the UK. Honestly, if you don't have a good job, if you are just earning minimum wage and just surviving, you will struggle because things are becoming really, really expensive. House rent, bills, home bills, and then food. Food that used to be relatively cheap before, it's now very expensive. And you're just wondering, like, what's happening? What's the way forward? So I don't know if it's the same for Canada, but I think this is another reason why, you know, people that are leaving.
The reason why things are pretty expensive here, but the government are now providing avenues for people so that they can sustain themselves. Like you can just be here now and they will just say, we are paying $1,000 for, they'll just give carbon tax return, whatever, that you just in your account. They'll just pay you some money, and they'll be like, so they are bringing up different programs, different ways, so that people will not suffer that. And also in Canada, there's something they call rent assist. People don't really complain about their rent because they have what they call rent assist. Can you imagine that there's someone that is the rent is his rent monthly is $1,800, right? And the government is subsidizing it is paying that guy $1,500. So he has to pay just $300. Yes, he has to just pay $300 for the rent. So even if the more expensive your rent is, the more money they'll pay you. So people don't really complain about the rent, because let's say you now say, okay, your income is, let's assume that your income is 20,000 annually. Then you are now renting, your rent is now 1,000. So they will now compare your income to your rent and say, this income is too high for this guy. And you can see them paying you 800 every month for your rent. So you then have to pay 200. So people will not really complain about rent here. Except your income is so high, which how many people that you are not qualified for rent subsidy, which majority of people are qualified here. So they have things like that. They try to increase the child benefit that parents will get every month. So they try to just kind of balance the system. Like energy bill that you were talking about, yes, it was getting very high, and the province of Alberta now, from January they'll start paying back. They said they are going to do retro from July, so things like that, you just find you won't just complain because you are getting those things from the government.
I know that there are some government schemes, there are some things that are trying to put in place to help low-income earners, but most immigrants are not qualified to get all those benefits, because if you look at your visa, sometimes you will see you're not entitled to public funds. So many people are even scared, like, I don't want to go and take this one, and it's because it will be public funds and all that. So most of these schemes or most of these benefits they're trying to bring up, most immigrants are not even entitled to it. So it's really difficult, honestly. It's really hard right now surviving in the UK, except you have a good business, you have a good job and all that. And I think, that's why people are just moving to places like Canada, because of these things you said. So the next point is tax. We can't even talk about why people are leaving the UK without talking about tax, okay? The UK tax is a lot. Everybody pays tax, whether you're a business owner or you're doing a 9 to 5, you're an office person, everybody living in the UK pay tax. So people complain that the UK tax is too much. They complain based on what they earn and how much they are taxed. That it's just not making sense. So most people just prefer to go to another country where they feel the tax makes sense. And I've talked about how the UK tax system works on my YouTube channel. I'm going to leave the link to that video in the description box. How to calculate your tax, how to check and everything. I don't want to dwell so much on tax, so this video is not too long. But just know that the UK tax system, a lot of people think that it's just too much and it just doesn't make sense.
In Canada, they do take tax though. Everything is the tax rate, but there's something they call tax return that they do every year. So now they've assessed it. They see that, okay, let's say I made 20,000, or let me say 30,000 this year, and the tax deduction that the government took from me is like 10,000. So they'll not be like, this Chichi deserve a return. So they will not do it they give us, by this time now they're going, your jobs will bring your pay stub and everything. So you use it to do tax return at the end of the year, every year. So you're going to get tax return from the government. Okay, so that money, except you are someone that is working too much or you are very, very rich, that's when you pay back to the government. They'll be like, we didn't tax you enough, so you pay back. But majority of people in Canada do get tax return. So people look forward to that tax return where actually you just use the money to do something tangible. So even if they take taxes from you, they are going to refund it at the end of the year. And they also have something they still call GST. So if you fall under that low income bracket, they will every 3 months they do give you something. They pay something to your account. They call it GST rebate. So they give you something for that tax that you have paid for that 3 months. So that's with Canada.
All right, that's nice. I think another reason why people leave the UK is they feel like it's very frustrating, or it takes a very long time learning how to drive, getting your driving license, and then the tiny UK roads. Some people just can't deal with it, right? Because I've heard people just complain. They've taken their driving test for more than 5 times, 6 times. And for people who love to drive, they have families, just want to drive. So somehow it's just frustrating that you can't do all that because of how difficult it is for you to get your driving license here, and then and all that. So I don't know if it's a tangible reason enough for people to leave, but I've heard people say it's a reason why they don't just like the UK. They want to go to other places. I don't know if it's like that for Canada.
Yeah, because driving is a necessity. It's something, especially when you have a family. It can be so frustrating if you are not driving. As a family man or a family woman, at least somebody, either you or your spouse, should be driving. You guys have to have a car. Because imagine, look at the weather. How are you going to go shopping? How are you going to take the kids to school? Let's assume even if you want to use school bus, but not every parents want to use school bus. If you now said, okay, I want to send my children to a private school that they are not qualified for a school bus, you need to drive them down to then you go to church. It's a necessity abroad. You need to be driving. So in Canada, if you come as an immigrant and you have a full license from back home, right? Once you come in here, you have you go apply, you just straight ahead, you apply for their written test. So once you pass that 24, then they book you for a road test. So once they book you for that road test, because their roads are wider and they don't really, to be frank, their driving is okay. And once you have been driving back home, trust me, you will pass it here. So even after your first suit, second attempt, let's say third attempt, you will pass it here. If you've been driving from your home country, you're going to pass. So most people come here within, especially men, within a month, they've started driving. They've gotten their driver's license. It's as easy as
to be fair, I think, everybody drives well here. There's every car that is on the road is roadworthy and all that. But the issue is just how expensive it is. Yeah, if you come here with your Nigerian driver's license, for instance, you can drive with it for 1 year, is allowed. But after that, you have to get the UK license, right? You have to take your theory test and then go ahead to book your practical test. And all those things are not cheap. Especially practical tests, like trying to learn how to drive with an instructor, and then driving. Passing is where the issue is most times. Most people don't really find it funny. They find it very frustrating. And yeah, that is another reason why they say they are leaving the UK.
Yeah, because you need to be driving.
So these are some of the reasons why I feel people are leaving the UK, and the fact that people complain that it's boring living here. There are no much activities to do, and that some houses are very small. That UK, especially if you even get it, because some people are saying that it's even difficult to find houses these days, and that UK houses are very tiny, and people just keep complaining about the pattern of building some of the UK houses. That's job opportunities. You get more opportunities in Canada than in the UK. I don't really know about that, but I've heard people say that as well. I think these are some of the reasons why people just consider moving to Canada. Plus, they say that it's just easier and it's more comfortable living in Canada. If you are a career person, you grow in your career. Like, basically, it's just easier to survive in Canada than it is to survive in the UK generally. And that's what they say. What do you think about that, Chichi?
Yes, I agree to that. Because in Canada, there are a lot of jobs and you can really grow in your career path. Let's say, okay, you just migrated and you just want to look for something to do. Then you just start with, well, if it depends. So people will say, no, I'm not going to just start with any menial job. I'm want to wait. Bankers come here and they become bankers. Canada is a place that you can actually grow once you know what you're doing. And the housing here, we've talked about housing, it's kind of spacious, especially when you are living in the rural part. It's kind of spacious compared to UK. The UK houses are just too small. When you are in the rural part, you can just be, your yard will be so big and all that. And the apartment, you have balconies. I don't know if you have balconies. You have balconies where you can see come out, even when you are in apartments, to go get some air and all that. So the housing, the way they build their houses, I think Canada pattern of building is better than the UK.
All right. I think we're stopping here for now. If you have other reasons why people are leaving the UK, or you've lived in the UK before and you've left for any reason at all, please let us know in the comment section. I really want to know, more reasons why people are leaving the UK and going to Canada and some other countries. Okay, so yeah, thank you guys for watching today's video. Don't forget to visit Chichi's channel at the Chichi Show. She does everything Canada on her channel, and you won't regret visiting her. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.